Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Grab a seat, get comfortable. Today, we're tracing an extraordinary, almost unbelievable financial ascent. And along the way, we're taking a hard look at the deeply human, often hidden psychological toll that accompanies extreme wealth. It's kind of like a vintage-style documentary look at a ledger of wealth and resentment. Okay, let's dive right into this.
We have to start our chronological journey right at the absolute bottom. Level 0. Picture this. You're 31 years old, you're a yard boy, pulling weeds for pocket change. And right now, you are standing in this incredibly affluent neighborhood called Cedar Hollow, working a birthday party you definitely weren't invited to. You've just finished spreading compost, and you reek of it. It's earthy, it's sharp, and it's completely wrong for a high-end patio party. And this brilliantly illustrates the central question we're exploring today. What is the exact price of revenge? It's a big question, right? Because what happens next on that patio is the spark that eventually builds a billion-dollar empire. And the whole thing comes down to an insult from the guy hosting the party, a man named Derek. So on one side, we have the gritty, raw reality of our protagonist's labor. The blistered hands, the smell of the dirt. On the other side is Derek's performative wealth. He's got these pristine, perfectly trimmed boxwoods that everyone takes photos of. When Derek catches the smell of compost, he makes this huge show of it. He waves his hands, stumbles backward, and jokes to the crowd, "Hey, somebody call animal control." And the crowd? They laugh. But worse than that, Derek publicly humiliates our protagonist right in front of his wife and his daughter. His daughter is literally standing in the driveway, hearing Derek's kid ask why her dad smells like a barn. Derek just acts like he owns the neighborhood and everyone in it. Then comes the payment, or actually the complete lock of it. Derek doesn't pay him in cash. Instead, he tosses a beat-up used pair of work gloves from his garage and just says, "Compliment to the house. Maybe stop staining the porch steps." Our protagonist needed that cash to feed his family. Instead, he gets some rich guy's old gloves. It's a moment of profound disrespect. But what keeps him up that night isn't just the insult itself. It's the fact that he didn't throw those gloves away. They become the ultimate catalyst for everything that follows. Fast forward a bit, and we jump to an income of $22,000. This is the struggle of early independence. He's driving a rattling $1,100 truck that literally shudders at every stop sign. He's mixing trimmer fuel and old detergent jugs right in his driveway, and that harsh chemical smell soaks permanently into his hands. His daughter hugs him one day and innocently says he smells like a machine. It's an honest living for sure, but man, it stings. But then, a pivotal moment happens. While clearing a totally neglected flower bed for a widow named Mrs. Calloway, he finds her late husband's broken pocket watch buried deep in the mulch. Now remember, he makes maybe 20 grand a year. Pawning that watch could feed his family for months. Instead, he walks it right up to her porch and places it in her hand. What's really interesting here is the neighborhood's default assumption. They just assume someone like him would steal from them. By returning it with zero expectation of a reward, he completely shatters that assumption. Mrs. Calloway tells the whole block. Suddenly, 5 more houses call him. His unrewarded honesty literally secures the street. And that trust, it translates into compounding contracts. The ideas spread like wildfire. Month 1, an estate cleanup. Month 6, his back is absolutely breaking, so he hires a guy named Ruben who desperately needs the work. By year 1, there are 2 trucks running the neighborhood. Watching Ruben push the exact same mower he used to push triggers a massive realization. Success in this trade was never actually about being willing to do the physical work. It's about becoming the one who no longer has to. We escalate now to $95,000. The physical reality of the business is growing fast, but more importantly, the psychological perception is beginning to shift. Neighbors who used to literally look away when his beat-up truck rolled by are suddenly flagging him down for estimates. How did that happen? Well, a $3,800 truck wrap. He spent the money to put a real logo and a slick, professional font on his vehicles. That simple visual change turned a yard truck into a company practically overnight. The wrap did in 7 days what his reputation took a whole year to build. People start treating him differently. The gap between them is closing, measured in inches at neighborhood cookouts. So here is the crucial point of how he scaled this entire operation. He discovers what we'll call the opportunity gap. The county property management firm calls him to subcontract all the unglamorous green spaces, stuff like retention ponds or highway medians in the dead of July. Nobody is fighting him for this work because, honestly, it's beneath them. Everyone else wants a clean tech app or some cool brand story. Absolutely no one wants the weeds. And it's poetic, really. The exact contempt that made Derek toss those dirty gloves is the very gap in the market that allows our protagonist to quietly dominate municipal contracts. Boom, which rockets the business to $480,000. At almost $500,000, the sheer scale of the operation demands a change in personal presentation. The business has officially outgrown the yard boy persona. This brings us to the true power of illusion. He goes out and buys a $250 off-the-rack suit. He reletters the trucks with 3 new words: Cedar Hollow Grounds and Facilities. He goes from being the yard boy to a grounds partner. Now, his hands haven't changed. The calluses are exactly the same, but those 3 words, they act like magic. Suddenly, the HOA is asking for his pro bono advice. The neighborhood wives are bringing his wife casseroles and saving her a seat at school pickup. And then, the universe hands him Derek again at a trade mixer. But the roles are totally reversing. Derek is in a poorly fitting suit, aggressively pitching himself as a desperate turnaround consultant. Meanwhile, his own house has bare walls and a mattress on the floor. Derek hands our protagonist his card, completely failing to recognize the yard boy from his own patio. Our protagonist realizes something really profound here. Derek's entire life, that mansion, the pristine boxwoods, it was always a stage set. It was just a costume. Our guy knows his own cheap suit is a costume too, but that self-awareness gives him the superpower to spot everyone else's fake reality. Let's step into the millionaire bracket. 1.2 million. A regional developer folds his massive portfolio into our protagonist company. Private equity groups start calling. The growth is just staggering. But this growth comes with a pretty chilling social reality. Grounding this whole narrative is his wife's incredibly sharp observation. She tells him, "They don't ask who I married anymore. They ask what he's made." You see, the neighborhood is incredibly warm to them now, but that warmth is entirely transactional. It's tied strictly to the company's valuation, not their shared humanity. They stopped pricing his labor, and they started pricing his net worth. This dynamic perfectly sets the stage for the ultimate turnaround pitch. At a $6,000 a plate charity dinner, Derek, still having no clue who he's talking to, pitches our protagonist for an investment check. And the contrast is just staggering. Derek relies on desperate, empty buzzwords. Our protagonist? He responds with cold, mathematical due diligence. He looks at Derek's spreadsheet, simply tells him his margins don't work, and passes on the deal. It's a chilling realization. Revenge wasn't some fiery confrontation where he slammed the used gloves on the table. It was a sterile, professional spreadsheet rejection. The empire leaps again, this time to a $14 million national platform. They pack up, move out of their old house, and settle into the gated community across town. Literally the exact kind of place Derek only ever pretended to belong to. But paradise isn't exactly what it seems. His college-age daughter is called new money behind fake smiles. The distance between them and the old money never actually closed. It just changed currency. His wife hits the nail on the head yet again with this quote: "They don't look down on us anymore, they look us up." Escaping the harsh judgment of poverty only dropped them right into the isolating, deeply calculating judgment of extreme wealth. Having that physical distance vanish entirely actually turned out to be worse. Then comes an email from Derek's son. The exact same kid who mocked our protagonist's daughter in the driveway all those years ago is now grown, broke, and asking for a job. So what's the ultimate silent revenge? He hires him, gives him a mid-level position, fair pay, and he never, ever mentions the driveway. He just becomes his employer and lets the sheer, heavy silence do the punishing every single day. We push now straight into the stratosphere, $110 million. Private equity recapitalizes the company. His face is on the cover of regional business magazines that are mailed directly to his old street. Nadine's HOA, the exact one that used to fine him, now makes him the guest of honor at their block party. Everyone is eagerly pretending they always believed in him from day one. And then, Derek's old house, which had been foreclosed and flipped multiple times, hits the public auction block. Our protagonist buys it in cash, over the phone, sight unseen. But he isn't buying a house. No, he's buying a patio. Walk with me onto that creaking wood for just a second. He stands on those warped boards, the exact spot of his greatest humiliation, the place where he was mocked for smelling like compost. He waited half his life to hold the deed to this very spot. And as the wood flexes under his shoes, he feels absolutely nothing. The house just remains locked and empty.
Which brings us to the climax of this staggering chronological ascent, $1.1 billion. Now, $1 billion allows you to do something totally unprecedented. Through a faceless holding company, he quietly begins buying up the entire old street, house by house. The retiree, the family that used to cross the street just to avoid his truck, they all sell to him. Completely unaware, they are handing their keys over to the yard boy.
He thinks this is the ultimate gift to his wife, but she delivers the emotional gut punch of this entire journey. She looks at him and says, "I never wanted the street. I wanted one person on it to talk to me like I was a person, back when it actually mattered." As she so tragically summarizes, owning their houses isn't the same as any of them ever actually seeing me. It's just a more expensive way to stand here alone.
Which leaves us with this final lingering image. Why, after making $1 billion, after literally buying the very neighborhood that rejected him, and after completely outlasting Derek, why are those beat-up, used work gloves still sitting unworn in his truck's glove box? It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If the permanent scars of class and that basic human need for dignity are things that even $1 billion can never truly buy back. Think about that the next time you interact with someone doing the invisible work around you. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. I'll see you next time.